Hi, friends. I'm ready to wrap up September reading. It was a fine month. It wasn't anything spectacular. I didn't have any 5 stars, which I'm still on the hunt for. But I did have some good buddy reads that helped me get through some pretty chunky books. And I did read 3 books for Shorty September. So let's talk about them. The first book I completed, I think I started this at the end of August. Um, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This one has an afterword by Sophie McIntosh, and it's translated by Roz Schwartz. This is how many pages? 173. So it definitely fit the Shorty September vibe that we were going for. This is a very strange book. It is. It's about 40 women who are locked in a room that's underground, and they're not really sure why they're there, how they got there. It seems like they're all different ages, and we kind of focus in on the youngest, who, from what she understands and has been told to her, she was a child when they were put in this cage. And her mother is not among them, but there's not a lot of information about, again, why they're there, how they got there, what the purpose and point is. So that's kind of the premise and what I already knew about the book. I actually kind of stayed away from it for a while. But it was picked for a book club, and although I did not make it to the book club, I did read the book. And we kind of focus in on the daily of this youngest woman and some of her relationships with the other women, kind of what they go through on their day to day, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, what she knows and doesn't know, because she didn't receive any schooling. She was young when she went into this caged room. There's some very minimal speculation as to why they're there. Again, they have no memory. And through some circumstances, they are freed from this room. And they're not really sure why, where they are, but they basically go on a survivalist kind of mission. And they start traveling together as a group. And we just see the interactions of the women, some kind of cliques that form, little groups that form. The youngest child's, they call her the youngest child, the woman, the narrator's, her relationship with some of the other women, and kind of a walking through life and death situation. It was interesting. I will say, I almost DNF'd this, probably towards like the middle. I just didn't care, didn't see the point of all this wandering they were doing, and it would jump by years in the timeline. So it took me about 2 weeks to get through the first 2/3 of the book. And again, I thought about DNFing. But the last third was definitely, I got it. I got why people love this. I The last third was kind of shocked me in how much I enjoyed it, because it's not a lot of, like, there's not a lot of things that happen in the last third, but it's really a look at life, the meaning of life, and then the circle of life, and death and companionship and kind of questions about life that you all, like many people talk about, like the meaning of life and the purpose that you're there, why certain things happen. And yeah, it brought to mind a lot of questions. And I ended up giving it a 4-star, which the rating really surprised me. The last third I would give a 5-star. The first 2/3 I would give probably a 3-star, maybe a 2-star, 2.5-star. So we're gonna meet in the sort of middle and give it a 4-star. I know math's not my best subject, but the last third really made the book. And so I think you can see how much I tabbed it. Just the impactfulness of sort of a simple story, um, and while you kind of speculate what might have happened, um, does what happened matter and where they are? Do you just kind of try and function where you are and what you're presented with? Brings to mind all those questions. So that was probably, yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite read of the month. Okay, next I read Love That Dog by Sharon Creech. This is a middle grade, told in verse. And I was curious because I want to gift this to my nephew. And it's really about a young boy who is learning about poetry and how to read poetry, how to find meaning in poetry. Um, I've never been like a huge poetry fan. I did study a lot of poetry because literature was my degree in college. Um, but I did like that it talks about how a young person learns to express themselves, talk about their feelings, and how poetry or just journaling could be a good outlet for that. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I'm pretty excited to give it to my nephew. All right, and then um, the other book I read for Shorty September was from the library. I read Universality by Natasha Brown. This was longlisted for the Booker Prize, and it started off strong. It started off with sort of a culty type group, which is something I like to read about, and a crime that happened. And we're following a journalist who, the first like section of the book is um, the article that she writes about this, and then kind of looking at different characters. So there's different sections in the book. It was like, I don't remember, it was under 200 pages or right at. And the different sections are from a different perspective and their involvement in the situation that happened. And it's really a political commentary on uh, so many things. um, it touches on sort of different people and their biases and their view on certain things in politics, and kind of this is how I read it, is kind of a manipulation of uh, perspective, if that makes any sense. If you've read it, you might kind of understand that better. But someone has motives that kind of drive the whole situation to go one way or the other, and the different players in how like a media storm could be perceived. Um, it was interesting. like I said, it started off strong. I was really interested in this cult and the crime and what happened. Um, but it just kind of lost me towards the end. And I ended up giving it a 3-star. It took me a while to read, which is interesting because um, 2 of the books for Shorty September that I read took me a really long time to read, and they were both under 200 pages. Then I did 2 buddy reads on 2 chunker books. The first, actually, the second one I did was Anna of Cleve, The Princess in the Portrait by Alison Weir. This is the 4th book in the 6 Tudor Queen series. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't love it. I will link below the video I did specifically on this book and whether or not I'm going to continue with the series. Oh yeah, I did read this with Melinda at A Web of Stories, and I always love reading books with Melinda. So that was a pleasant experience with this. Not so much the book, but talking with Melinda was fun. And then the other book, this book has been on my shelves for a very, very, very long time. And that was Crime and Punishment. This is one of my 12 in 25 books. I got one done in September, month 9. But I did get this. I did a buddy read with my friend Andy, and this is about this is about Raskolnikov, I think is his name. We called him R. Uh, he is kind of a struggling student slash tutor who is not enrolled or tutoring anyone at the time, and a crime he commits, and kind of the unraveling of him in his mind and the actions of those around him, just with the crime that happened, but also there are different events that happen as well. And looking at Raskolnikov's kind of judgment of what other people are doing, and in himself, a different level of judgment. As someone who works in psychology, this was very disturbing. The mental uh, decline that he experiences, and it's not clear whether it's because of an illness, like a physical virus or something like that. It's not clear. Maybe he's drunk the whole time, or what is really causing it. I think from my perspective, it was more of kind of a moral judgment of himself. This was confusing. I I listened to the audio mainly, but I also read it with the audio in tandem, because a lot of the names were getting confusing and I wasn't sure who we were talking about, which is not uncommon in Russian literature. The names are just hard. And then they also have their name, first, last name, and then they have nicknames or shortened names, or different sequence of names depending on who they're talking to, I feel like. So that was confusing. I'm glad I read it. I gave it a 3-star. I did get close to DNFing this one too, but I think doing the buddy read with Andy kept me going. I think the other thing when reading this, important to consider, is that it was written in 12 parts as kind of a series of short stories or vignettes. In When was it written? In the 1860s. And it really does look at societal expectations and guilt and remorse and who's a good person, who's a bad person, just that kind of human judgment. So I am glad that I read it. And it's finally off my shelf. And I got one of my 12, actually, I think this is my second 12 and 25 book that I've read. So there's that. That's what I ended up reading in September. I mean, these two chunkers took up a lot of time. Let me know in the comments below what you read in September and what your favorite book was. Did you have any 5 stars? Let me know, because I'm always looking for something that could be a 5-star for me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.